Sometimes the boxing gods are unforgiving. Sometimes they bless us. Sometimes it just depends which side you're on. If the boxing gods provided signs, perhaps the damped grounds of Wrigley Field provided no solace. It could have been holy water from the sky, or it could have been the mood awaiting in the horizon for the thousands of Mexicans that slowly began to fill the stadium. Was the rain a sign? I guess it depends on who you ask. It was April 1st of 1958. The outdoor baseball stadium was not full early, as it was a custom with Latino fight fans during this time. But it had been raining all day, so it made sense. The City of Angels was becoming a hotbed for boxing, especially with the rise of Latino fighters. The popularity of boxing was expanding worldwide. Mexico was no exception. The gospel of boxing was reaching all ends of the earth. This was just the boxing gods wanting more sacrifice, more blood, more sweat and tears in their honor. This chapter began as one ended. The legend Sandy Sadler had retired due to a detached retina from a car accident. He proceeded, of course, to vacate his featherweight world championship. The quest to crown a new champion of the division began. With the title vacant, there was two top contenders. There was Cherif Hamia, a French-Algerian fighter who had just won the European Championship. Then there was Kid Hogan Bassey, who had been a fierce competitor in his region, reaching status as Commonwealth champion. Hogan Kid Bassey entered the world stage by defeating Puerto Rican Miguel Berrios, who was 35-9 with one draw. And this fight was in Washington, D.C. That was in a title eliminator. Bassey was knocked down in the 10th round, but still managed to win wide on the scorecards of that 10-round contest. This led him to challenge number one contender, Cherif Hamia, for the featherweight championship of the world. The fighter, nicknamed Kid, had blistering hand speed and was blessed with a sharp right cross from the boxing gods. Hamia was coming into the fight at 30 wins, only one defeat and 2 draws. Bassey was coming in at 51 wins, 11 losses, and 2 draws. Hamia was expected and was the obvious choice to win. He was the fighter that was in line to face the former reigning champion, Sandy Sadler, after all. The fight was taking place in his home country of France, adding to the stacking of his favoring deck. With his Frenchmen cheering him on, Hamia dropped Bassey in the second round, and while it appeared like Hamia was winning early rounds, Hogan Bassey turned things around and scored a TKO victory in the 10th round. The stoppage was disputed by the Hamia corner. They claimed that it was an unfair stoppage, a conspiracy by Hamias that the National Liberation Front, a dominant Algerian political party, had conspired against him so he didn't become champion under the French colors or flag. There is no evidence known about this other than the claim. It's important to note that the fight was in Paris, where he was the home fighter. The featherweight division now had a new world champion, the Kid, a Nigerian out of Britain, Hogan Bassey. In the featherweight scene, there was a fighter named Ricardo Pajarito Moreno, who was making serious noise in Mexico. He turned pro in 1954 and quickly went up the ranks. He knocked out 19 of his first 20 opponents. He first fought in the United States in El Paso, Texas against Jesse Munguia, a fighter who was 32-8. Knocked him out in the second round. In 1956, he also knocked out Cuban boxer Oscar Suarez, who was 45-3 at the time, in the second round. He became the featherweight national champion of Mexico as he then climbed to the world stage. He began to fight in boxing hotbed Southern California, continuing to knock out opponents. He was known for having power on both hands. Reporters that witnessed him live would say that he had punches that sounded like a welterweight. The song of power does intrigue the best of men. It's magnetic to the steel of our desires when it comes to boxing. The boxing gods blessed Ricardo Moreno with knockout power on both hands. This was especially true with the little bird, who found fame and fortune with his paisanos, and his hands of steel was a big part of it. The momentum of that train was derailed, however. Moreno suffered an upset loss to California State featherweight champion Jose Luis Cotero, who was 33-12-5 at the time. It was Moreno's fourth fight of 1957. The fight was in Gilmore Field in Los Angeles. Moreno was a 7-1 favorite in this fight. This was a bloody affair. The sixth round saw both fighters hurt each other. A bloody Cotero stopped Moreno in the seventh round. This was a setback, but Moreno would get back into contention sooner than expected thanks to boxing's triangle theory. A fighter out of New York, a 28-year-old veteran fighter named Ike Chestnut, who was 28-8 with 3 draws, was in a 5-match winning streak and ranked number 2 in the world at the time. Let's just say the boxing gods did not bless him with dynamite in his hands. He only had 4 wins by way of knockout. But the lack of power proved his boxing ability in the ring to be of great quality. He defeated Mexican Jose Luis Cotero, the same man who pulled the big upset over Moreno. This was Chestnut's 6th fight in the year 1957. He outclassed Cotero wide in a 10-round fight, and he was getting closer to his coveted title shot. Chestnut now going into the 7th bout of the year. He was going to end the year against Ricardo Pajarito Moreno. This fight was in front of 11,000 in the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. Chestnut was outboxing the fight, and cuts to his face caused the fight to be stopped in the 6th round. The boxing gods were just, at least to those that prayed for Moreno. It was April 1st of 1957. April Fool's Day. A Tuesday. There was a different feeling that day. The outdoor baseball stadium was not full early, as it was accustomed with Latino fight fans. It had been raining all day, so you could say it made some sense. The City of Angels was becoming a hotbed for boxing, especially with the rise of Latino fighters. The popularity of boxing was expanding worldwide. Boxing was no exception. The gospel of boxing was reaching all ends of the earth. This was boxing, the boxing gods wanted more sacrifice, more blood, more sweat, more tears. Wrigley Field in Los Angeles was a minor league baseball stadium that held 22,000 for baseball games, about 10 to 18,000 for boxing fights. The stadium was designed by Zachary Taylor, whom built several major Chicago buildings, including Ambrose and Wrigley Field, home of the Cubs. I don't think Zachary Taylor realized the construction of the stadium would be used to host major boxing events. A total of 6 world title bouts were held at the stadium. In 1939, Joe Louis knocked out Jack Roper in the 1st round. Ray Robinson won the middleweight championship on May of 1956 by knocking out Carl Olson at the stadium. On August of 1958, Floyd Patterson defeated Roy Harris. Boxing fights were common at baseball stadiums in those times. Perhaps by accident, but baseball stadium's diamond shape makes putting a square ring near the stands behind the home plate a natural option. Due to the outfield stands being too far, this is the reason capacity for title fights was less than baseball games despite the floor seats. It also allowed for promoters to easily sell fights, and baseball was America's pastime after all. It was only a natural option to sell a fight at a stadium where many families were used to seeing baseball games at. On this rainy April 1st of 1958, Ricardo Pajarito Moreno, 29-3 with one draw, 29 wins coming by way of knockout, got his title shot. He went up against the Nigerian British boxer, featherweight champion of the world, Hogan Bassey, who was 54-11 with two draws. For $10, what would roughly be $89 in 2019, you can get access to the lower grandstand of Wrigley Field in Los Angeles that day. About 18,000 partisan fans packed the stadium before the beginning of the main event. Both fighters walked out to the ring. First, the challenger, the crowd's hero, hard-hitting Ricardo Pajarito Moreno. The crowd cheered. The mood of the day changed instantly. The darkened clouds covered the mist of the day, but the arrival of the challenger lightened up their sky. Ricardo Moreno entered the ring and lifted his arm, greeting his paisanos who roared in return. Next, the champion, Hogan Kid Bassey. He walked out to the sound of loud boos as they sirened across the sky. To say that this was hostile territory would be an understatement. Bassey kept his composure and entered the ring. The announcer called the attention to the capacity crowd of 18,000. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the featured bout of the evening. This bout is scheduled for 15 rounds. And it is for the featherweight championship of the world. To my right, the challenger coming into this bout this evening with 29 wins. 29 wins coming by way of knockout, 3 defeats, and 1 draw. Ricardo Pajarito Moreno. And to my left, the champion, making a first official defense of his title. His record, 54 wins, 11 losses, 2 draws, 18 wins, coming by way of knockout from Cross River, Nigeria, by way of Great Britain, Hogan Kid Bassey. Both fighters to the center of the ring they went to receive referee instructions. Gentlemen, I want a clean fight. Both of you are to follow my instructions at all times. As the referee provided further instructions, a realization of what is about to go down hovered over the stadium. Heartbeats rose. Occasional whistles in the distance were heard. Both fighters went back to their corners. In Moreno's corner, para México, tú vas a ganar este campeonato mundial. Bassey's corner, box smart, he's very dangerous early. Both fighters to the center of the ring. Moreno with a high guard started to throw his jab early in the round. You can hear the crowd chanting, Pajarito Moreno. Moreno, 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 they chanted. Bassey was on his toes, circling the ring. Kept his left glove slightly below his shoulder and lifting it above his shoulder at times, shooting his jab from different ranges. Bassey was giving Moreno different looks, ducking low at times. The crowd would boo as he backed away. Bassey initiated a clinch. The ref allowed both fighters to fight out of the clinch. Bassey attacked with hooks. A leaping hook by Bassey. He landed a good overhand right early. The partisan crowd cheering for Moreno still. Moreno, 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 they chanted. Bassey with that blistering hand speed put punches together on the inside, but would remain there long enough to allow Moreno to land some inside as well. The crowd would roar as Moreno landed his punches. Moreno was able to set up some overhand rights. Moreno ripped downstairs and upstairs with devastating hooks that the champion felt. Bassey remained in there, however, landing short shots of his own on Moreno with his quicker hands. Both fighters clinching, one arm as they threw with the other. The pace of this first round for a 15-round scheduled fight was intense. The crowd could feel the victory nearing. No man could stand there and take these devastating shots from Pájaro Moreno. Boom, boom, he kept landing those shots as the crowd roared. Bassey timed Moreno's 1-2 and would duck low. He would come back to the inside. The crowd booed as Bassey stayed on his toes, but he got brave. Again, they fought in the trenches. Moreno went for some uppercuts on the shorter Bassey. Boom, boom, he landed some. He would then go to the body. Boom, boom, big power shots. The crowd again cheered. It was a wave of cheers. Moreno backed up and landed a short left hook. Bam! While he made some space and backed up to the ropes. Bassey used his shoulder to push Moreno back to the ropes himself. Moreno put on a high guard. Bassey threw rights and lefts with authority to the gloves of Moreno, trying to pierce through the guard. Moreno threw back. The crowd was loud. They were cheering every time Moreno threw thundering shots, whether it landed on bone or leather. Back to the center of the ring, Bassey threw an uppercut to the body of Moreno. Bassey used his footwork to make Moreno miss with a wide hook. As Moreno got closer, Bassey held. Moreno ripped to the body. Boom, boom. Getting leverage on those shots, forcing Bassey to break the hold. Bassey stayed in the pocket, however. Bassey leaped with a hook and landed on Moreno. Back In the clinch, both fighters kept fighting for position. Moreno went back to attacking the body, landing a hook to the solar plexus of Bassey. The crowd again roared. The champion hung on, however. He got the fight back to the center of the ring. Both fighters exchanged hooks. Moreno began to set up some hooks and uppercuts. He staggers the champion back near the ropes. The champion hangs on to the ropes. He doesn't go down. More hooks to the body by Moreno. Boom, boom. He lands bombs to the guard of Bassey, moving the positioning of the champion. Bassey is hanging on. He tries to hold. Moreno turns Bassey towards the ropes and begins to throw hooks again. Landed a right to the body. Bassey retreated back to the center of the ring. Moreno missed wide hooks. One hit the glove of Bassey and sent Bassey's arm swinging to his side. Bassey makes Moreno miss again, then clinches him again. He walks Moreno back to the corner. They're leaning against the ropes. Bassey goes back to the center of the ring. Then the bell rang. The crowd cheers for Pajarito Moreno, seeing him as the winner of the round. It looked like the champion was stunned by the challenger momentarily. Moreno's corner. ¡Eso! ¡Vamos para ganar este campeonato! Sintió tu pegada. Tenemos que ser primero. Primero, Pajarito. Bassey's corner. I told you! Box smart! Why are you trading with him? You keep doing that, you're done. Hit the man and get out of the way. When you're close, clinch him. Push him against the ropes. Round 2. Bassey began circling the ring left, throwing jabs down the middle. Shoo, shoo. He made Moreno miss, then initiated a clinch early. The defending champion started to push the challenger back while ripping to the body. Bassey released the clinch, and instead of staying inside as he did in the first round, he backed away. This was to the crowd's displeasure. They booed, urging that he get back in there. Still circling to his left, Bassey found home with a leaping hook again. Started to set up a right hand. He momentarily got inside and ripped body shots to the challenger's body. He pushed Moreno back to the ropes. It's the one thing he was doing right in the first round when he did it. Moreno did not have much power backing up. He held Moreno against the ropes until the ref finally broke it. In the center of the ring, Moreno threw and missed some jabs. Bassey utilized his footwork and upper body movement to get out of the way. Bassey began to stay on the outside, circling left still, mixing up his jab to the head and body. He was sneaking some uppercuts in there. He'd move away and stay on his toes. He kept making Ricardo Moreno miss with his right hand. He'll come in with a jab, then a cross, then make Moreno miss wide. The jab to the body was starting to cause Moreno to drop his guard. Bassey began to time the uppercut. The crowd was still on its feet. Although Moreno was starting to get pieced apart, they kept cheering him on. Moreno, 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 they chanted. Moreno began to back up. Bassey saw an opening and began to be the aggressor. Bassey setting up everything with his jab to the face, jab to the body of Moreno. Began landing hooks and uppercuts. It seemed he had Moreno's timing down. The devastating hooks didn't stop by the champion. A big overhand right by Bassey. Boom! The crowd roared, "Oh!" as Moreno ate that. Moreno is still game with that encouragement from the crowd. He gets close. Bassey clinches. Moreno, frustrated with it, spins Bassey in the air. The ref jumps in and makes sure they get back to boxing. Bassey blocked a hook with his glove and proceeds to land an onslaught of punches on Moreno to close the round. Moreno likely saved by the bell. The crowd was not as loud as they were after round one, but they were still cheering their man on. Moreno's corner. Tenemos que ser primero, te dije. No puedes contragolpear con él. Es muy rápido. Tienes que ser tú primero. Bassey's corner. The uppercuts were beautiful, beautiful. He's waiting for you to go first. He can't hit you back unless you stay there and exchange. Keep wearing him down. He's open to the right cross. Right when you go to the body, he's open to the right cross. Round 3. The challenger was trying to establish a jab. However, the elusive Bassey was beating him to that jab. He was coming in with full range hooks, and when they got close, he would clinch the challenger again. He was not allowing Moreno to get off. Bassey would then bounce back to the center of the ring. Right hands of Bassey were finding range. Boom! The crowd would again as he landed big right hands. Moreno cut off the ring for a moment and got Bassey against the ropes. It was near the corner. The crowd cheered as he threw thundering shots to the side of Bassey's head, just over the guard, and left to the body, and another right to Bassey's guard. Boom, boom, boom. The crowd was in it again. Bassey fought out of the ropes with some piercing shots of his own upstairs. Zoom, zoom, zoom. They exchange jabs. Then Bassey follows with a jab to the body. Then a big right hand. Zoom. The crowd reacts. Bassey holds him again until the ref breaks it up, not allowing a challenger the opportunity to unleash his dynamite hands. The right hand of Bassey lands again. Says the crowd. And again it lands. The uppercut inside, followed by a hook and a right. They all land. With that amazing speed. The crowd has remained on their feet. These were devastating shots. Moreno against the ropes. There's a brief exchange. But Bassey has all the leverage in the shots. Bassey backed up for a moment as Moreno stalked forward. Another right hand. Lands. Says the crowd. Moreno started swinging. The crowd was cheering as he swung. But he was missing these shots. Bassey held and pushed him back. And he kept holding until the ref broke it up. The partisan crowd still believed. They knew it just takes one shot for this power puncher to win this fight. Moreno again trapped Bassey on the ropes. The crowd has been as loud as they've been. The Mexican landed some punches. Boom, boom. But Bassey clinched and pushed him back to the side of the ring. The punches of Moreno didn't seem to have the same thunderous sting as they did in the first round. The clinching seemed to have tired out his arms. He staggered back to the ropes momentarily. Bassey pawed the lead hand and timed an uppercut. Boom! The crowd went. He turned to his left and leaped with a nice hook that landed. Oh, the crowd went. Moreno looked very hurt. He digs deep and rips a left to the body of Bassey. Bassey again held and pushed him back. Moreno threw to the body. Boom, boom. The ref broke it up. Box, he said. The crowd on their feet, still chanting, Moreno, Moreno, Moreno. Bassey threw a jab. Moreno went for a big right, and it missed. He swung and missed again. And he swung and he missed again. That's a strikeout at the baseball stadium. Bassey landed a big hook. Boom! He even lost his balance as he landed it. Moreno pressed forward still. Big 1-2 by Bassey. Boom! With that amazing speed. Still on his toes. Still full of energy. A left. Bam! Followed by a beautiful right cross. Bam! Oh! The crowd said. Moreno staggered. And he falls. He rolls to his back. Bassey goes to his corner. The ref. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the ref waved it off. The silence in the soggy baseball park was deafening. The sound of the cameras flashing is all you could hear. Referee Tommy Hart stops the bout at 2 minutes and 58 seconds of the third round. The winner by knockout and still featherweight champion of the world, Hogan Kid Bassey. The stunned silence continued as the disappointed countrymen of Pajarito Moreno began to exit the stadium. Hogan Kid Bassey successfully defended his championship claim this day. Pajarito Moreno's thunder-like punches weren't fast enough to catch up to the lightning fast Bassey. That's how it was written, and that's how it was. On a rainy day, remember this story. When you see lightning across the sky and hear thunder seconds later, be reminded of this fight and the will of the boxing gods. Sometimes the boxing gods are unforgiving. Sometimes they bless us. Sometimes it just depends which side you're on. If the boxing gods provided signs, perhaps the damp grounds of Wrigley Field provided no solace. It could have been holy water from the sky, or it could have been the mood awaiting in the horizon for the thousands of Mexicans that slowly began to fill the stadium that day. It turns out that it was a sign.